Okay, so today we're going to talk about nervous coordination. So nervous coordination is basically coordination of different body parts provided by our nervous system in order to provide a response to a particular stimulus. Now, what is a stimulus? Stimulus is basically a change in environment, any external change. For example, touching a hot object. So it's a change in environment, change in your body temperature. So what nervous coordination does, it's coordinating different body parts in order to provide the response to the external change that is your stimulus. Okay, so basically, nervous coordination comprises of two major systems: the central nervous system, the CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. Central nervous system comprises of your brain and spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system comprises of associated nerves, the nerves which are leading to or attached to brain or spinal cord. Okay, the nerves. You could say so associated. Okay, so the nerves, basically, if we further define peripheral nervous system, so the nerves which are attached to the brain are called cranial nerves, and the ones which are attached to the spinal cord are called spinal nerves. Okay, so this is the basic classification or organization of nervous coordination or nervous system. And the basic structure and functional unit of a nervous coordination system or the nervous system is basically a neuron. That is basically the nerve cell. The neuron provides coordination of different body parts by transmitting nerve impulse among different body parts. Nerve impulse is basically a wave of electrochemical changes, a wave of electrochemical changes that travels along the net length of neurons and provide coordination. But before further diving into the types of neuron, we should basically discuss about the structure of a neuron. So a neuron basically comprises of three major parts classified as the dendrites, cell body, and the axon. Okay, so we're gonna discuss about the basic structure of a neuron. So basically, as I described, that a neuron comprises of three main parts: the dendrites, cell body, and the axon fiber. Okay, so first of all, we got this region right here, which is actually highly branched and kind of seems like extension of this portion. So basically, dendrites, these are dendrites, and they are defined as the cytoplasmic extension of cell body. So basically, dendrites are highly branched cytoplasmic extension, which provide a larger surface area to receive nerve impulses from different neurons. Okay, moving on to the next, we got cell body. So basically, cell body comprises of a cellular fluid and a granular substance. Cellular fluid is basically cytoplasm, which contain different electrolytes, inorganic ions, and gel-like materials. And the granular substance is basically ribosomes that are associated with endoplasmic reticulum. So these two structures are basically involved in protein synthesis. And this prominent structure in the center of the cell body is basically called nucleolus. So basically, nucleolus is the control center of a neuron, and nucleolus is basically involved in controlling various cellular activities, as I described, the one performed by ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum, protein synthesis. It is basically initiated by nucleolus. So moving on to the next, we got the axon fiber, as you can see, the last portion in the neuron. Axon fiber is particularly a long thread-like structure, fiber-like structure, and the main function of it is to transmit impulse from this region, which is called the cell body, to this region, which is called the knob region. It contains various knob-like structures. Here it is not shown, but it basically terminates like certain knobs. Okay, so the function of an axon fiber is basically transmission of nerve impulse from the cell body to the synaptic knobs, which transmit the nerve impulse to the next neurons. So lastly, we're going to discuss some extracellular structures of neurons, which are basically called neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells are basically cells present in a neuron, and particularly if we were to describe it, it is basically present in the axon region. So neuroglial cells comprise of these rod-like structures, which are called Schwann cells. The Schwann cells basically wrap around the axon fiber, and they are further coated with the layer of myelin. Since myelin, the substance, is covering the Schwann cells, therefore we call myelin as the shed, or collectively we can call it the myelin shed, as it is the shed is a protective covering, and it is indeed covering Schwann cells. So basically, it would be called myelin shed. So now, what's the purpose of Schwann cells and myelin shed? So basically, the neuroglial cells, the Schwann cells covered with myelin shed, are not present in all axon fibers. It is present in some axon fibers, particularly in some spinal nerves and minorly in some cranial nerves. So what's the function of it? So basically, the presence of neuroglial cells provides a faster conduction. What do I mean by that? Basically, what happens is that the myelin shed is an insulating material, meaning that it cannot conduct nerve impulse. So whenever a nerve impulse reaches, it would have to jump over the neuroglial cells between the gaps of neuroglial cells. Okay, so the nerve impulse would be conducted just like this. So this jumping of nerve impulse provides a faster conduction in contrast to a non-myelinated neuron fiber. Okay, so these gaps are basically called nodes of Ranvier. So we can say that in myelinated axon fibers, the conduction is faster because the nerve impulse jumps from one node to another node of Ranvier. So this jumping of neuron provides faster conduction, and this faster conduction from one node to another node is basically called the saltatory conduction. Okay, so now continuing to the types of neuron. So based upon a transmission of nerve impulse, we have three basic types of neurons: the sensory neurons, the interneurons, and the motor neurons. So their function is pretty simple. Sensory neuron basically carry a nerve impulse from different sensory organs to the central nervous system. Okay, so basically, in simpler terms, we would say that it transmits nerve impulse from different receptors, skin receptors, eye receptors, ear receptors, basically the receptors of sensory organs to the central nervous system for processing. And interneurons basically get the nerve impulse from the sensory neurons, and then interneuron transmit nerve impulse among different parts of central nervous system. So the function of interneuron, if were to be defined, it would be like interneuron transmit or relay information among different parts of central nervous system for processing and analysis. Okay. After comes the motor neurons. So basically, the function of motor neurons is basically transmitting information from central nervous system to the effectors. Okay. So this is how basically nervous system provides coordination. It carries information from different sensory organs to sensory neurons, and the sensory neurons carry it to the central nervous system, which is then relayed via interneurons, and then after the processing and analysis of the stimulus, information about the stimulus in the form of nerve impulse, the response to the particular stimulus is carried through the motor neurons to the effectors. This is how we provide a response to a particular stimulus, and this specific pathway followed by a nerve impulse to provide a response to a particular stimulus is basically called nervous coordination. Okay, so in order to summarize nervous coordination, we would simply say the response to stimulus provided by coordination of what different body parts through nerve impulse is called what? The nervous coordination. And the main system responsible for nervous coordination is basically our nervous system is present in all mammals. We cannot say all living organisms because there would be plants there and plants do not have a nervous system. So we would say that nervous system is basically present in all mammals. And the most complex nervous system present among the mammals is basically our nervous system. So we would say that the most complex nervous system among the mammals is the human nervous system.